We all have habits that we do while gaming. Some of it's alright, some of it's not. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on Game Ranks, the 7 worst gaming habits you need to stop right now. And just as a quick little disclaimer for this video, you aren't bad for doing any of this stuff. It's stuff we're kind of all guilty of at some point or another. And some of it is bad for us, some of it's bad for other people, but it's just suggestions. We're not attacking. And please keep that in mind. Number 7 is bad posture, and this is one that I have serious problems with. When I sit in a chair, I am leaning forward. I am putting my face close to the screen. I am curving my spine. My bird spine, which is not a human spine. Still, bird spines hurt too. In any case, studies have shown that both kids and adults who sit down to play video games, for whatever reason, go from sitting upright to a full-blown slouch, which is, let's just be clear, not good for your spine, in a matter of 5 minutes. That's like the average. It takes 5 minutes and you're slouching entirely. And we have to go ahead and say, like, it's not like bad to have quote-unquote gamer posture. Like, that's not a thing that should suddenly become bad. Because a lot of the time I feel like when people start talking about this, it's very lectury, and I'm not really fond of that on account. It also kind of feels like an attack on the person, like, why are you doing this? But it's not why are you doing this, it's obvious why we're doing this. It's because it's natural. If every single person who is sitting in a chair playing a game is more likely to be doing this than not be doing this, it's not a matter of everybody making the wrong choice and being bad. The issue, I think, makes it clear we have set this up in a manner that encourages this, but still, just for your own sake, try to learn to sit in a chair differently. Like I said, it shouldn't really be your responsibility, but it kind of isn't being addressed in any other way. So when we say it's a bad habit, it's kind of just something that happens that we might have to mind over body for a while until somebody figures out how to deal with this. That said, we do need to do that. Number 6 is one that I think we can be better, a little easier about. Like when you send somebody a horrible message after you lose or after you win, maybe that's a bad idea. Like, we like to talk about the gaming community and all of that, but is it really a community where we look at people as strangers, as an object, as a thing that frustrated us to the point where it's all right to hurl that at another person? I don't really know. I think that maybe continually calling it a community while we're still having that happen on a constant basis, and believe me, it's what happens whenever I go into a video game where there is voice chat. If I play it long enough, I will see it that day. And this, again, is not to lecture, because I do feel that there's certain elements of this that are very much encouraged by the game itself, by elements of the so-called community. There's a very competitive element to people that you don't know, so you don't really view them as anything that different from the artificial intelligence that you also can beat in the game. And I think that if we all kind of understood that everybody playing games is doing it to enjoy themselves, and not everybody enjoys themselves with that kind of banter. I mean, with your friends, and you know that it's fine, like, seriously banter away, but you'd be surprised how few people want to participate in online games. People who are great and fun and awesome people because of this. Number 5, playing solo in a team game, even if you are quote-unquote that good. And let me just go ahead and say something, like, I am not quote-unquote that good, but I do this anyway. Like, this is partly because of that last thing. I don't love hanging around with people that I don't know who are gonna say stuff that I can't understand because I don't really have perspective from them. I don't really understand where they're coming from. I, to some extent, can kind of, but not entirely. This is the internet. We don't have context with each other in the way that we do in the quote-unquote real world. And this is something that I could do better because I kind of am not giving people a chance. It's kind of the flip side of the previous point. Like, this type of stuff is a two-way street, and if we're going to say, hey, you need to be better, then we also have to say, I'm going to be there for you to be better. You'll find pretty much anywhere we'll say that communication is a two-way street, and if we do just play solo in a team game, if we do just act like total loners all the time, and I'm not saying it's wrong to play as a loner sometimes, I'm not even saying that inherently playing solo in a team game is wrong, but there is a point where it's clear that one side definitely isn't trying here, and that often ends up encouraging every side not to try. And one final bit on this point, almost nobody is quote-unquote that good. There are few people who are that good. And whether or not you actually think you're that good, when you do this, you do look like you think you're that good. Number 4, thinking that you need 30 bullets for literally every single kill, or what I like to word as ammo hoarding, and then going nuclear. Because ammo hoarding on itself is, I mean, it's a behavior that's encouraged in certain games because there's very little ammo, but when that behavior carries over to games where there is plentiful ammo, you don't need to hoard ammo. You don't necessarily always have to find every single ammo cache. So let's say you've got the ammo hoarding, and then you go overkill with how much ammo you use. You're hoarding it because you intend to use it. In a game where it takes like maybe 3 or 4 bullets to take somebody down depending on where you shoot them, may even take only 1. It's not necessary to shoot like just an endless rain of bullets. Like, not every game is Resident Evil 2, the remake. That game is serious about where you spend your bullets, and it's also serious about making you conserve and collect as much as you can. Not every game is like that. Number 3, starting a game 20 minutes before something like bedtime or lunch. Now, there's actually 2 reasons not to do this. The first, I think, is very obvious. Let's say you've got something to do, you're going to screw yourself. You got lunch, you gotta be somewhere, don't start a game 20 minutes before you have to be there. Don't start a game 20 minutes before you have to leave to be there even. That's overall going to cause you problems, and if there's someone else involved, like you're meeting someone for lunch, it's gonna screw them too. Because in my experience, literally every person who does this does not play the game for just 20 minutes. They might only play it for 30, so it's not like the biggest inconvenience in the world, but that's what happens. Oh my god, I didn't realize how much I was gonna play this. And then you have to come up with an excuse, you're forced to lie, you're forced to go against one of the things that we should all care about as people lying to each other. We shouldn't do that. But assume we're talking about an online game, there's another thing that you're kind of screwing other people. If you've got something where you're going to have to stop, like hard stop, doesn't matter at what point in the game you have to press the power button and walk away, set the controller down, and people who are even only temporarily depending on you just have to be like, oh, well, guess they left. The other people playing the game who are not going somewhere in 20 minutes, not going to bed in 20 minutes, not doing whatever in 20 minutes, those people are screwed by you. It's not a good move, and it puts you in a bad place. It potentially puts another person that you know in a bad place, and it definitely puts people you don't know in a bad place. And again, it's not to be like you're a bad person if you've ever done this, because that's not true. But we all could use a little bit more organization in our lives to avoid doing this kind of thing. And one small step would just be like, if you know you're going to play a game for more than 20 minutes, and you've got something in 20 minutes, don't start playing a game. Number 2, and as digital games happen, this happens less with game discs, but when you borrow something gaming related, like a game disc, or in other cases, a controller, a console, or something, you don't really take care of it. You kind of don't think about it and act like it's one of your things, or don't think about it because you've never owned one of these things and don't treat it carefully. I mean, there's a number of different ways for this to work out. It's somebody else's stuff, so please just treat it with respect. I mean, it's only stuff, so it's not quite as important as hurting another human being, but it will hurt the person to some extent if you don't treat their stuff with respect. It's in some ways not treating them with respect, and in other ways, like, they spent money for that stuff, and if they have to replace it, they have to spend more money, which is not cool. And then finally, number 1 is playing games for obscene amounts of time without taking breaks. And this goes as much for every regular person who will sit down for a marathon gaming session, gets home from work and intends to go until they go to sleep, or even intends to spend the whole weekend playing a game. Take frequent breaks. I mean, we can't tell you not to do that stuff. It's not really our place. It's your free time. It's things that you intend to do. But there's things that you can do to try to keep as healthy as possible with that type of a thing. And the reason it's important to say is there has been more marathon streaming as well. And just a couple of years ago, we had somebody who had marathon streamed for 24 hours and then died. If you remember Brian VIGNEAULT, and if I'm not saying that correct, please pardon me. He was playing World of Tanks to raise money for Make-A-Wish and had gone for a really long time, got up, took a smoke break, and never came back. And he absolutely wasn't the first. We get stories like this fairly often out of Shanghai, Taiwan, South Korea. We've actually talked about them here on this channel before. People dying playing World of Warcraft, Diablo, etc. And it's awful. It's not going to definitely happen to you if you play video games for a long period of time, but you can definitely help yourself by taking breaks frequently. We're only putting that out there because we want people to understand they can help themselves to some degree, and I don't think we're gonna tell anybody specifically what they have to do. I think it's important we don't even. But in this kind of case, just please understand it is your health. It doesn't mean it's not your decision, but your health is your life. Are there any gaming habits that you know you have and need to stop? Leave us a comment, let us know what you're thinking about. Did you find any of this useful? We really hope you did. Click like if you did, or just enjoyed the video. If you're not subscribed, now is of course a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week, and the best way to see them first is of course a subscription. As always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter at Falcon the Hero, and we'll see you next time right here on Game Ranks.